Bids are in. The gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast dedicated to all things wine value, wine auction, and of course, just wine. With you as always, I am Jeff McGurn, and of course, my illustrious companion here, our wine auction expert, Paul Walker, and a wine expert, Paul Walker. Paul knows everything about wine.
Wrong again.
I'm fairly certain Paul could sit for his MS and pass it without studying.
Definitely not true. No, absolutely not true.
I think there's a 50-50 chance that...
Yeah, I would get my name correct. There's a 50-50 chance.
I'm just assuming that like the SATs, there is a certain amount of points you get for getting your name correct. So exactly. You would at least get those. Let's delve right into this. This is our wine auction recap episode. There's a good amount to talk about. I want to talk about this non-vintage Année et Jean-François Ganavat.
First of all, Anne is pronounced the same in French as it is here. It's just slightly different, but
it's pronounced the same. Yeah, it's pronounced.
Not N-A. We don't call people N-A. We don't say that. So.
What do you mean we don't? What are you? What are you, the Queen of England?
I'm speaking for the
King of England.
Country.
You're right. The royal we don't call that. I'll call people whatever I want, Paul.
And a Jean-François Ganavat. I'll just do it for you. For some reason, this name keeps coming up, week after week after week. We just never stop talking about Ganavat. You predicted it. I think you said it was going to go over 50, and I said maybe, maybe not, and it didn't. So
what I love is that this one has an exclamation mark in the wine name. Like
not only Rotelier. Oh, there's some other labels which I could share with you that are, I believe, also have exclamatory notes as well as designs on them that raise the ire of Puritans worldwide. So anyway, that's Ganavat for you. But I don't know, this wine, I don't think this is I don't believe it's like a top tier sort of quality level wine from Ganavat. I don't think it's supposed to be, comparable to like the best Cremant in the world. Not surprising that it got bid up. What did it start at 20, which I think was pretty darn low. $46, not too bad.
Not bad at all. Not bad. We sold 4 of them. We had 1981 Maurice Stewart Brut. We had 2 of them, 9 bids. Started at 55. Ended up both selling at $90 a piece.
Yeah, this is
interesting.
Rare. Looks super rare. Something first of all, never heard of the producer, but also from 81, it looks like was, released a long, long time ago. Alcohol 11.5 to 12%. So somewhere in there. That's a cool bottle. That's not anything that, I would have expected really to get bid up very much, but obviously some people that know a lot more about champagne than I do went after it because 2 bottles hammered at 91.
A lot of action on sparkling this week, apparently. That this was really a sparkling, which is a bit surprising to me. And then we've got a 2014 Volo Milo Merceau Carmez. This one,
Merceau,
whatever, same thing. I'm charmed.
Soft,
charmed. This one, 7 bids, took it from 65 to 78. All 4 sold. And then we had this, butcher this one, 2017 Domaine Jean Vaudoise.
Vaudoise.
That's right. That's what I said. Volnay.
That was cheap. That was still cheap. It only hammered
$23, right? $24.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's a good deal. So just goes to show too. I mean, Balomillo, I don't know. I'll just say mid-range producer Merceau, but 14 was phenomenal vintage. So I think the wines are getting more and more collectible. I mean, it got really good scores. I'm not calling it mid-range in terms of quality. I'm just saying in terms of producers that are, well-known and sought after, especially in the secondary market. It's not considered sort of one of those wines. Anyway, it got bid up pretty considerably to beyond $70 for one of them, 74, 75, even I think $78, $79. So that's a lot.
$78, $79 at the highest.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The Volnay 23, which was good. We had I believe we mentioned this 2017 Davaso Chablis started at 70. Hammered at 90.
And that's the rate, right? They're all going to probably be over 100 before you know it. So it's inching up there. It's about $9 away.
Surprised to see 2018 Carlisle Radiant Ridge Vineyards Syrah. This one, 6 bids, took it from $25 to $40.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's interesting because I think Carlisle's been kind of underappreciated, I think, in the secondary market for a long time. And I was talking about the 13, I think, Sonoma County Syrah and Zinfandels that I got a couple of weeks ago for about $20, and they're really, really good. Current release, or recent release, I should say, 18 Radiant Ridge. I'm sure that's north of 40 or $50 on the mailing list, I would imagine. But people noticed that and said, "Hey, that's a smoking deal," and so got bid up to more in the range where it should be, I think.
This is another one. I believe we mentioned this one last week. 2020 Domaine des Savarodes Arbois Poussard de Cheminot.
I'm actually looking for it to see how badly you're massacring the.
It's not that bad.
I can't find it. How do you
spell it? 20.
Oh, I see it. 2020.
is how you start.
Cameron, okay. Etienne Thibault, Arbois Poussard de Cheminot. Yeah, okay.
That's what I said. my pronunciation was perfect. So look,
wait, there was actually
6 bids. Took it from $30 to $56 where it hammered. So,
30 to 56. Yeah. It's a lot. That's a lot.
That's quite a bit for Pulsar.
It is a lot. I'm not sure we brought, well, maybe you brought this one up.
I think I brought this one up.
Random Jura wines. I'm
just always surprised to see that there's all this action around a lot of these random Jura wines.
Yeah, no, it's true. And also I think, was it last week that there were 4 different Vin Jaune wines in, or was it the week before? I can't even remember. It might have been the week before, actually, because there was a Ganavat, and then there was, I think it was the week before. And all of them sold. And, it's kind of interesting to see the price range with Jura wines in general, just to see where, X wine is going versus, Y wine is Caberod, compared to, Pouffenet, compared to whomever else. It's almost as though, there's this kind of underground cult following that's stronger for certain. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like any other region. There's these kind of very small production producers that make all sorts of interesting wines, and the style is, if you know the wine, you actually know the style, and et cetera. But it's like a lot of these are becoming, I think, just more and more popular as they get more notoriety. And I'm sure social media has something to do with that too.
I'm sure social media has something to do with it. I think you also just have a situation where people have a lot more access to information about wine, can do their own research, and they're finding interesting regions and interesting, wine to go after. I think that's a really cool thing, because it gives smaller producers an opportunity that they may not have had before, especially ones that are out of the way and not selling the most commercially viable grapes. Heading back to a region with incredibly commercially viable grapes, we have this 05 Domaine Berthaud Chamois Moussigny. This one, 34 trackers, 5 bids, took from 340, hammered at 430.
Well, wait a minute. I don't think you said the whole title. I think you're missing an important part of that title, because you didn't mention the vineyard that it came from, which is Les Amoureux, which is a big, big deal. So don't forget that.
Les Amoureux.
Yeah, Les Amoureux is by far and away like the most famous part of Chameau Musigny, and other producers, because I always talk about Berthaud, because it's far less than anyone else that makes, anyone of like sort of top tier pedigree who makes Les Amoureux, because it's excruciatingly expensive. It's 4-figure wine for a lot of different producers like Vogue, et cetera. So 340 looked actually pretty reasonable to me, but yeah, it looks like each one hammered at
430.
430. Yeah, that's not too surprising, especially from such an awesome vintage. So
speaking of well-known producers, the 06 Domaine Laflèvre Pouligny Montrachet.
Right.
That one, 5 bids, took it from 200, hammered at 220.
And that's typical, right? It's just going to go up slowly, I think, as time goes by.
And then we had the 2014 Domaine Sylvain Moret Chassagne Montrachet en Caire. This one hammered after 5 bids, went from 65 to 71.
Sylvain Moret, I'm not as familiar with this. I want to say it's a younger production. Not, it's not a super long history for that particular label. So I'm so many things happening here that I'm unaware of, but interesting to see that it's getting pushed, and from 14, such a phenomenal white burgundy vintage. So those are getting swept up and grabbed.
Let's switch over and let's start talking about some of our big sellers.
Yeah, sure. We had another batch of 2020 Screaming Eagle in last week that got bid up beyond what it sold for just a couple of weeks ago, which to me doesn't really make sense.
Multiples. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 batch.
Yeah, there were multiple.
Yeah, we had 4 of them. They all got bid up to $8,060 from their $7,560 starting point. I think we mentioned this actually, that 2010 6-bottle lot OWC of Petrus. I feel like you don't see a lot of like 6-bottle lots of Petrus going around. I mean, maybe you do because you travel in different circles than I do. But yeah, one bid took it to 27,300. Going back to the Screaming Eagle, though, it was really noteworthy to me is that all those Screaming Eagles had multiple bids.
Yeah, it's true. It kind of goes against what we've seen trend wise with new releases. I'm talking about 2020 specifically because I know there were some other vintages of 3-packs in. Last week there was 19 and 18 also, but the 2020 generally when they're in for the first time is when they usually hammer for the most. And I think that was true the first week that this wine was in, but then I think all 4 lots that were in last week hammered for the same price. So at 80-60, which is pretty interesting to see. So maybe the market's changing as these wines are being added. Who knows? Like, that's a mystery to me.
One way or another, something's going on and people are loving their 2020 Screaming Eagles. Maybe the word got out. Somebody opened up a bottle and found it was absolutely stunning.
Well, James Suckling did. He told me personally. He said it was phenomenal. I saw him at premiere and he said it was amazing. And I was like, really? It's like, oh, awesome. Okay. So, word's out. Like, there's not a whole lot of red Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa from 2020. So it's a rarer entity than other things.
If you absolutely must have your bottle of Napa Cab from 2020, your options are limited.
Exactly.
And they include the $8,000.
But thankfully we're here and you can find 2020. There's right. A couple lots up this week, or maybe 1 or 2 up this week. Did you notice there's Charles Lachaux, some more of this guy is just on fire. Bourgogne Aligoté, 5 bottles. They started at $750. It looks like they all sold actually for $750, which is just wild. People are paying $750 a bottle for Aligoté, but hey, that's Charles Lachaux for you. 61 Palmer too. I think you might have mentioned it last week, or $38.95. That's a hefty price for, a second growth wine.
Yeah, yes, I believe Palmer. Yeah, Palmer's second growth. One of the ones that was interesting, thought we mentioned this, was the 08 6-bottle lot of Dechem Mags. OWC, you get...
I don't remember that was... Yeah, that's
28, wow. 28.50. That is a lot of Dechem to...
It doesn't seem like too bad of a price either.
It really doesn't, because right there, 6 of those is roughly the equivalent of 12 750s, right?
Yeah, it's a case of Dechem. I mean, that's essentially terrible.
It's essentially a case of Dechem for
28.50. Yeah, it's not the greatest vintage of all time. I think 08 sweet wine from Bordeaux. It looks like for Dechem too, the ratings weren't through the roof, so it's probably just kind of I would say a condition of the vintage. The
2012 bottle lot of La Maison Aubryon OWC sold for $64.80. Mm-hmm. That was sort of an interesting sell. We had a lot of multi-bottle lot OWC sell. 3-bottle lot of Promontory Red, Barolo and Barbaresco Professional Collectors Set, Masetto, a 3-bottle lot OWC, some Scarecrow, some Paul Hobbs, Beckstoffer Tokalon, 6-bottle OWC, Opus 1, 5-bottle vertical, Fulgen 2018, 3-bottle lot OWC. I mean, just a tremendous amount of stuff. And, some large format 96 Margaux mag. sold for $17.75. A tremendous amount of either multi-bottle lots or large format.
So, and I noticed a couple things that we mentioned a couple weeks ago, sold out last week. The 89 Chauve Hermitage, looks like there were a couple bottles of that. They rolled, I think, maybe a week or two and then sold. And yeah, you're right. There's 13 Maya 3-bottle OWCs. There were a couple of those that sold out. One thing I noticed, because I was looking at single bottle offerings with multiple bids, and there was some '07 Giacosa Folletto Reserva Barbaresco that started at $325 and hammered at $485, which is pretty serious, but that's Reserva level pricing for sure. And so lots of interesting, singles and multi-bottle lots in the same week that got a lot of activity. So it was a very busy week for sure. Oh yeah. Also Jean-Marc Rouleau, Bourgogne Blanc started at $90, hammered at over 100. So that's 110. So that stuff keeps creeping up and up and up. I don't know if the Merceau sold last week or not, but the Bourgogne Blanc got bid up quite a bit. So it was an exciting week for sure. Especially our favorite, Colomare Bourgogne Blanc 18, which you mentioned, started at 70 and hammered at 87. So again, that's also getting up there for Bourgogne Blanc. So
just a ton of action, especially around multi-bottle lots and large formats. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up our auction recap. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we're going to discuss all the cool, interesting stuff coming into auction and talk about that. With WineBid's finally hammered, this is Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.